All right, Rangers, this week's headlines are a proper mix of chaos, drama, and a glimmer of hope. Over 20 attempts on goal, but only 9 on target. Our shooting boots are clearly missing, and that defense absolutely woeful. Robin Proper shouldn't even be in the B team. No strength, no vision, no clue. Meanwhile, we're still leaking goals like a rusty pipe, and Jack Butland's in the firing line again. But let's give credit where it's due. Ridvan Yilmaz, take a bow. The lad put in a 10 out of 10 performance, the only bright spot in this mess. And amidst all this, we've got Clement's job on the line, Lennon Miller nearly breaking ankles, and big transfer talk brewing. Stick around, there's a lot to unpack, and you won't want to miss it. So, looks like Rangers are sniffing about Josh Brownhill, eh? A midfielder with a bit of pedigree from Burnley, who's got folk in England and Italy tripping over themselves to sign him. Lazio, Fiorentina, and the likes of West Ham and Brentford are all in the mix. But here's the kicker. Brownhill could end up in Glasgow, either at Rangers or, wait for it, Celtic. Now that's a scrap waiting to happen. It's a bold shout, mind you. Brownhill's been called a superstar in the making by his former gaffer, Lee Johnson. Tackling, scoring, set pieces, he's the full package. But with Rangers' budget tighter than your mate who never buys around, pulling off this deal would be a massive statement, especially when you've got clubs like Everton and Lazio lurking. Thing is, we're also hearing whispers about Celtic being keen. That's right, them lot across the city are sniffing around Brownhill too. Can you imagine the meltdown if they beat us to him? We're already lagging behind them, and this would be another kick in the teeth. The bigger question is this really where Rangers should be focusing? Brownhill's class, no doubt, but should we be splashing what little cash we've got on a midfielder when our defense is in bits? The injuries to Sotar and Balogun have left us paper thin at the back, and surely that needs sorting first. Here's one for you to chew over. If it comes down to a bidding war and Rangers lose out on Brownhill to Celtic, do you reckon it's time for a full-scale revolt against the board for their lack of ambition? Or is this just modern football and we've got to live with being second best for now? Let me know what you think. Well, here's one for the books. Rangers are apparently gearing up to sign Lennon Miller, the young Motherwell midfielder who's been making waves and nearly breaking ankles by the looks of it. Remember that horror tackle on Oscar Cortez? A straight red all day, but somehow the lad walked away with just a yellow? Honestly, it was so blatant, it could have been sponsored by a bricklayer. Over the top, studs showing, ankle twisting. Cortez must have felt like he was auditioning for a remake of The Karate Kid. Now, while everyone's losing their heads about the foul, Rangers are eyeing him up for January. And fair enough, the kid can play. Just ask Neil McCann, who was practically handing him the Ballon d'Or on Sky Sports after the match. But there's something almost poetic about Rangers signing a player who might have ended up on our injury list instead of the team sheet. On one hand, Miller's only 18 and already bossing it in midfield, creating chances and showing maturity beyond his years. On the other, you've got to wonder if his studs-up tackle was more audition than accident. Hey, look, I'm tough enough for Rangers. If so, mission accomplished. But here's the rub. Is Miller really the player to spearhead a revival at Rangers? Or are we so desperate that we'll take anyone who can hold their own against us, even if it means putting our medical staff on overtime? Would you back this move, or is this just another gamble in a season already full of missteps? Well, here we go. Jack Butland's time between the sticks at Rangers is turning into a saga, isn't it? From saving us on countless occasions last season to this recent run of slapstick moments, you'd think he's taken tips from a goalkeeper training video made by Laurel and Hardy. Honestly, giving away daft penalties and nearly gifting Motherwell a third goal, it's enough to make you wonder if he's playing for a move or just lost the plot entirely. The VAR decision against Tony Watt, talk about dodging a bullet. Butland practically punched the ball into his own net, and yet somehow we're the ones getting the free kick. Referee Kevin Clancy must have been channeling his inner magician. Nothing to see here, folks. While Marvin Barley and James McFadden were left gobsmacked on Sky Sports. Even they thought we got away with murder. And let's be real, we did. Now, word on the street is that Clement's had enough and is looking to move Butland on in January. Ipswich Town was sniffing about last summer, and back then £10 million sounded like daylight robbery, but after this run of form, we'd be lucky to get 10 quid and a packet of crisps for him. The idea of bringing in another keeper makes sense, but we've got Liam Kelly warming the bench already. Are we just stockpiling keepers for a rainy day? Here's one to stir the pot. If Butland is on the way out, should Rangers have cashed in on him last summer when his stock was high, or is the club's real mistake not having a proper replacement ready to go? You tell me, did the board drop the ball, or is this just the price we pay for inconsistency at Rangers? Chris Boyd has come out swinging again, hasn't he? This time he's blaming Philippe Clement for letting sports science take over Rangers. Apparently, the Belgian's crime is listening to the lab coats rather than his gut, and Boyd reckons that could cost him his job. Sports science running the club, he says. Well, if that's true, they've not exactly been running it very far, have they? We're still 14 points behind Celtic, and the only thing moving quickly is the fans heading for the exits after performances like the one against Motherwell. Look, Clement's got a point when it comes to squad rotation. Some of our lads are made of glass, after all, but too many changes in games like this. It's like trying to win the lottery with a bunch of scratch cards, a total gamble, and one that's not paying off. And now we've got Boyd suggesting that Clement's positives, like the results against Spurs and Celtic, are being undone by this tinkering. Fair enough, but is the boss supposed to ignore the medical team and run players into the ground instead? Imagine the meltdown if half the squad were injured by February. The real worry isn't sports science, it's that Clement doesn't seem to have the answers for this team. Dropping points to Motherwell after losing to St Mirren, while Celtic keep motoring on, makes us look like a squad still in pre-season mode. Europa League progress and the Scottish Cup are nice distractions, but they're not fixing the 14-point canyon in the league. Here's a proper debate starter for you. If Clement is sacked, is it really his fault for listening to the experts? Or is this yet another Rangers board failure for hiring a manager without the spine to make tough calls when it counts? Would a stronger boss have ignored the science and pushed for wins? Or are we just too soft, top to bottom, as a club right now? The Philippe Clement situation at Rangers has gone from let's see how he does to how much severance are we paying in record time? After that, Shambles at Fir Park and the Boxing Day debacle against St Mirren, it's hard to see how the Belgian survives past the next Old Firm clash. 14 points behind Celtic already, and now the board's apparently waiting for Roger's lot to come to Govan to decide whether to swing the axe. Talk about handing him a poisoned chalice. You can't ignore Clement's bizarre team selections, though, starting Kieran Dowell and Cyril Dezers over the likes of Vaclav Cerny and Hamza Igamane. That's like leaving Alfredo Morelos on the bench to play a Sunday League striker. You're asking for trouble. By the time Clement called for Igamane, we were already 2 goals down. The boy still bailed him out with a brace, but that's just papering over the cracks. And what's the plan for the Celtic game? Play it safe, keep it tight, or go for broke and risk a hammering? Either way, if Clement loses again, and make no mistake, Celtic will smell blood. It's curtain. No excuses left about injuries or budget. It's do or die now. Here's something to chew on. If Clement loses to Celtic and gets the sack, is it really his failure? Or is this just the board's mess for bringing in a manager who clearly wasn't ready for the pressure at Rangers? Did Clement ever have a fair shot? Or has the club's rot from the top made him another scapegoat? Let's hear it. If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.